Lord today in his parable. He presents us, like last week, a parable of what the kingdom of heaven is like and how it is that we come to be into the kingdom. He says that the kingdom of heaven is like a marriage feast, a banquet spread out, ready for all of us to enjoy. But in order to come to that banquet, we have to make ourselves available to it. And sadly, many people do not want to show up because they are too busy. They've got other important things to do. And of course, this angers the king in this parable, and that is our God, that we would not have enough fear of him, enough awe and love for him, to put aside all our worldly cares and be at the banquet with him. Ultimately, the banquet we're looking at is heaven, the kingdom of heaven, our sole destination after we depart from this world. But again, too, the banquet is used to also show that the service, the divine liturgy, is foreshadowing the banquet of the feast that we are presented every time the liturgy is served. And so we have to ask ourselves, where do we fall into this? Do we make excuse to miss the banquet? And what is the result? We're cast out. We're no longer, the invitation is taken back. It's revoked. And then also, when we do show up, perhaps we were one of the lucky few that showed up. Perhaps even one of the lucky few that our lot came. We don't even belong here, but we got an invitation and we showed up. Did we show up according to God's command? Did the king just send out an invitation and say, "Come as you are"? He did not. We know that from this parable. It is not just come as you are. Sometimes we would like to think of our God as always in this loving manner, merciful, that he does not care how we enter into his temple, that he does not care who gets into heaven, that it's open for everyone. This is simply not the truth. And the parable tells us that someone showed up, and the king was angry with them and cast him out because he was not wearing a robe. He was not prepared for the banquet feast. He came just as he was, not wishing to change who he was, but came, just showed up. And so just showing up, brothers and sisters, is not good enough. We have to be prepared for the banquet. We have to know what the banquet's about. We want to do all that the invitation states. There's probably a dress code. In fact, we know that in this parable that Jewish feasts there were a dress code. This would have just been known to the people. And when Christ is speaking about this parable, he's speaking to the apostles who would have known that. He would have known that to show up to a wedding without a proper attire would have been an insult to the one putting it on. And so we insult the Lord when we show up into his home, when we come and partake of the banquet, and we're not prepared for it. When we are not following the commandments of God. And we can say, well, this is just a parable and a warning. But it actually, in fact, is how the Lord feels, how God feels about his temple and about the holy things, about us showing up unprepared, unwilling to change who we are out there before we come into this temple. Today we celebrate the prophet Samuel, one of the more famous Old Testament prophets. And Samuel was born to Hannah, who you might have known. She could not have children. She was barren into old age, and she prayed and prayed and prayed to the God and that she'd have a child. And she conceived. And like Theotokos, it's a very similar story to Joachim and Anna, that she conceived this child and dedicated that child at 3 years of age, like the Virgin Mary, to the temple, to be a servant of the temple. And when he was in the temple, he was living with the priest Eli. And he was a temple priest. And Eli rose Samuel, raised him up, and a servant of the temple. And Samuel would to become a priest and a prophet, and he would anoint the first kings of Israel, Saul and David. But the story here that kind of relates to what we're talking about in this parable is that Eli, as a priest, had two boys, 2 sons. And as he was a priest and would take care of the offerings to the temple, according to the law of the Old Testament, that his sons would not honor that law. He would take those offerings, and they would take part of it before they were even sacrificed. They would go and eat some. It was an animal offering, as was the Old Testament covenant. Animal sacrifice, and they would take it. And they had no regard for the temple rules or the commandments in the Old Testament. So Samuel, as he was a young boy, had this vision. God called him. God called him to tell Eli what was going to happen to his sons. And his sons were going to be killed for their defilement of the temple, for their lack of fear of God. And it is true that both these sons were killed by the Philistines in battle when they were taking the Ark of Covenant away from the temple. And Eli killed himself because of that. He fell down and hit his head and died over the shock of the loss of his sons. And so it is real. We can't just think of this as, well, we know God's very merciful. And He understands our weaknesses. He understands that when we come as we are to the best of our ability, and I'm a weak person, so it's okay that I come not fully prepared for church, or that I even miss church altogether. He understands me. Well, God didn't understand Eli's sons. They should have known better, and we know better. And in the Old Testament, there was a price to be paid for that. His sons perished. Eli's sons perished. And so did the priest Eli for not keeping them in line. It's a scary story. It was a true story, and it just happens to be the prophet Samuel. So I share that with you because we have to honor God. We have to keep fear of Him at all times. And we have to show all the piety that we were raised with as children in this church. It means going to confession very frequently. It means coming prepared to receive communion. That means that we read prayers before we receive communion. We don't come as a right to receive it. We come and we have prepared and said prayers and ask God that would make us worthy to receive it, because none of us are worthy. We all know that. And it honored the church feast days. Come to the temple, not like the parable where people just said, I'm too busy. I have a ton of excuses. I can't be there today. We have to not do any of that, brothers and sisters. The holy prophet Samuel makes witness to that with the priest Eli, that it's insulting to our Lord. It's insulting to God. So come to communion. Come to the church feast days. But come prepared at all times, so that we can honor our God and honor His commandments. And then we will not, in the day when we come to before Him in the kingdom, we won't fall down in disappointment like the priest Eli. We won't be those who perish to death that we hear in the parable and in the Old Testament about Eli's sons. It's a strict warning, brothers and sisters. And the Lord has put this at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, because He's right now about to go to His crucifixion. And so He's speaking pretty plainly to us that He requests this of us. He requires it of us. Be pious. Fear Him at all times. Many are called, but few are chosen. May God